We're back.
We're back. We're back with a vengeance. Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Oh, man, I tell you what. Been another week, huh?
Oh, what a week. What a week.
Yeah,
we're in July already.
Oh, man, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think the bloody retailers should start preparing for Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, they'll be starting to play Christmas music before you even know it.
Yeah, right.
Actually, we should start thinking about our Christmas show now.
Right, exactly right. That's how badly we plan. But anyway,
I know everybody's groaning, thinking, "I'm going to listen to these guys all the way through till Christmas."
Hell, even I would find that punishment. No doubt about it.
Oh yeah. All right. Well. Look, guys. I don't know if you're joining us live or you're watching the replay, but what Andre and I wanted to continue our theme around end user business. We think it's an absolutely fascinating and critical part of your portfolio. So we're going to give you some ideas about how you might either build a portfolio or enhance your end user portfolio today. So we'll get right into it, and got some slides for you here. I guess the first thing, Andre, is what do we mean when we say end user work?
Yeah, Mick, this is quite interesting because you and I even had this sort of discussion beforehand and said, and so I put down that thing and you said, well, I'm not too sure whether that's even a good definition for the end user. Well, in fact, I don't, thinking about it, there are some good websites. I mean, one of the websites that really do give some good, what's it?
I like the Level Set.
Level Set, that's it. Yeah.
Some good stuff. And Procore has a very good.
Procore has some very good content.
A website called, I think it's called Job Site, and it has some really, really interesting articles about construction. So, their kind of definitions of, an end user is somebody who actually uses the end product. So occupants of buildings, owners of buildings, but they also extend that definition to anybody who manages or maintains property. But for all intents and purposes, and the main message I think we want to communicate to you guys is it's an avenue of revenue that doesn't have to go through the GC bid process. I think that's
right. I think that's the key, isn't it? I mean, that's the whole, that's the whole genesis behind this is, not, and here's the thing. I mean, we're going to be a little bit cautious about this because it's not saying that the GC isn't important in this whole thing. Of course, the GC is a critical component of the, traditional, commercial floor contractors business, no doubt about it, but unfortunately, what we have been finding in sort of in the recent years, Mick, is that, and this has been a little bit global, and there's been a reason for it. And I've thought about this. I know when I say I think about something, I know what you're going to say. But anyway, let's not go there yet. But my view is one of the reasons why we've seen, I think, a significant decline in end user business. Well, first of all, COVID. Okay, COVID impacted the end user business. There's no doubt about it. I mean, people were shut. The whole corporate market was dead. Blah blah blah. All those sort of things. But even before then, Mick, if you think about it, sort of the pre-COVID, we're starting to talk a little bit about end users and really, the value of an end user and looking into our clients and saying, well, what really is happening in your end user portfolio? And even then, not as significant as today, I might admit, but, in many of the clients we saw, some decline in both the emphasis, the revenue, everything around the end user. The construction market was really starting to right. come to a boil and so on. So, and of course, well, when the harvest is plentiful on the other side of the fence, Mick, tell me something. Do you know why the grass is green on the other side of the fence?
Do tell.
Because there's more shit there.
But
right. Anyway, that's a whole different story. So,
and to be fair, our thinking was, a little bit embryonic with regard to end user. We kind of gave it a little bit of thought, and you said, well, it's kind of like filler revenue. When your revenue goes up and down like that, in those slow periods, let's fill it with a bit of end user revenue. We didn't really think too strategically about it, but what we've come to realize is it really is a strategic weapon in your arsenal, and that's something that we hope to convince you of today. And you may have already arrived at that conclusion. I know you're smarter than we are, but we take a long time to learn things, and we have been working in the flooring business, well, certainly Andre, for 15 years. So we are slow learners, but we're finally getting there, right, Andre?
We'll get there in the next 15 years,
Right. So back to end user, the different categories of end user, different segments, if you will, and we've just picked 4 major categories just to help us picture that a little bit. And certainly you'll probably be doing work in these areas, and the first 2 are really about the who's managing that facility. Is it in-house or is it outsourced to property managers? So typically a hospital will have their own operations manager, facilities manager. Large office buildings will have somebody doing that. The tenant work will probably outsource to some of these bigger property managers.
Yeah, I mean, Mick, look, I think really, if, looking at this slide, to me, what does it say? The market is significant. You know what I mean? Number one, the market is significant. Number two, a lot of this, and really what I like about it, this is usually local. You know what I mean? It's not, and I know, many of, of the way we do business is sort of driven local. It's local GCs, local thing, but this is truly local, and it is a way that looking at this, that you can say, okay, I can achieve a certain amount of revenue and growth in this market. There's always plentiful there, if we choose to go for it. So, and it's really lovely when you start thinking about it in these various sort of categories, and saying to yourself, well, where am I at within each of these categories? How am I, are they all, things that I want to go for, or is it just certain specific areas that I want to do? But there's plenty there.
Well, there's more than plenty, and that's one of the dangers, is we can spread ourselves too thinly, and we'll come back to that point. But let's just do a little explosion. Andre, he's the workaholic and did plenty of research ahead of the call and did some data analysis for you. So on this next one, Andre, you did some research on the property manager market.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is just fairly basic stuff, but I mean, it was just for my purposes, just to get a feel for really the significance of this market. Now, Mick, you got to understand one thing, right? That this here is million square feet, so it's 6.8 thousand million, right? I mean, if you think about just that CBRE, for example, I mean, the amount of commercial square footage that is involved in this is absolutely enormous, really, really significant. So and I mean, you can have
sorry, with my little simpleton, hat on, that square footage is all floor, right?
I mean, it's floor. It's floor. It's floor.
That's 6.8 billion square feet of floor,
and that's one. That's
and people tend to replace their floors. Maybe every 5 to 7 years, probably faster in some of these, tenant properties. So let's say they did it, once every 6.8 years. For CBRE at the top, right? Divide 6.8 into 6.8 billion. You got $1 billion of a billion square feet of floor every year. Man, that's a big market. We should be able to get some of that, right?
It really is significant. And it's a beautiful market to own. once you have it, and it can be, it can be very perpetual, it can be very annuity driven if that's what you like, you know what I mean. And I mean, you look at some of these guys, sometimes even for us, and I mean, we're fairly familiar with these guys. I mean, I've even saw a few names there that I didn't even recognize in many of our customers. Now, I know some of these property managers are sort of a little bit localized, but I think the big thing is it's quite significant to understand not only the size of these property managers, but also the diversity of their portfolios between office, industrial, retail, multifamily, healthcare. I mean, it really is a very, very significant, diverse portfolio. So guys, great target market. Obviously, wherever you are located, that's where you should be targeting your key, property managers. This is definitely one of the ways to build your end user business. It's not the only way, but it's one of your ways.
And the way this report is structured, I don't know if there's a nice set of segments, right? Office, industrial, retail, multifamily, healthcare, hospitality, right? Then there's some nice segmentation.
Right.
Segmentation there.
Absolutely, Mick. So anyway, I think for everybody that's that's sort of saying to themselves, how do I start a little bit of a focus in this area? You know what I mean? This could be a very nice starting point. I mean, look, let's these property managers are getting work done. That's whether we were there or not, they're getting work done. But I do think that having a strong value proposition, we'll talk a little more about that, for these guys is, managing these properties is very difficult for these guys. You know what I'm saying? And when just do one thing, you can start making it slightly easy for them. And suddenly, you can have a really nice end user business. But we'll sort of focus a little more on that on the next things. I mean, now we've converted a live show into a slideshow. So perfect.
All right. Okay. Well, we know we've only got a few slides. Why do we think end user business is good? I mean, I like the first one, which is when you get a good end user, they typically will buy multiple times per year. So that property manager has probably got, multiple floors, or that hospital has got, the OR, the ICU, the lobby, so they tend to come back. And if you've built a relationship, hey, you can harvest that, multiple times, and they tend to come back year on year. So we use the term annuity revenue, in that we mean that these people come back. When you're in the bid environment, you put that bid out, you're done. In order to get the next bid, you've got to go back to the well and start from ground zero. Here, you've got these fabulous relationships with the decision maker.
No doubt about it. And I mean, to me, there's so many benefits. I mean, if you think about just the financial benefits, Mick, the fact that, 9 out of 10 times there's no retainage on this. So so now you don't have that issue of, well, I've got to have another invoice. All that administration and angst around it, retainage, gone, doesn't exist. And normally this is what I call the invoice business. You know what I mean? It's one invoice and we're done. It's not progress billings. It's none of that. The once we get to know the customer, it's so much easier to schedule that work. Our subcontractors or in-house people starting to get to know, the way that the customer works. It really can be delivered in a very process-driven manner. And yeah, of course, margins need to be big, because there are smaller jobs. Right. So you've got to have that sort of balance of more margin, less volume of revenue. But if you are efficient at delivering this type of work, this could be extremely, let's call it fruitful or beneficial to your bottom line as such. So to me, this really makes a lot of sense. If I was in this business as an entity trying to understand how I drive my profitability, this would be a very critical focus for me.
And so we didn't rehearse this, so Andre and I are riffing a little bit on this one. But Andre, what would you feel would be a decent percentage of your portfolio as end user business versus GC big business?
Mick, a great question. And I mean, you sort of know, you and I chat about this so many times. Is the thing we look for is something north of 30%, and and to me, the ultimate, is somewhere around 50%. So.
We're talking.
Look at Carol. Hey, Carol.
Hey,
nice.
Thanks for joining the show. We love your comments. Please, property managers. Hey, I'll be coming to see you soon, and I'm going to pick your brains on how to keep those property managers sweet and happy. I know you've built an entire career around building relationships with those property managers, and so you're one of the thought leaders. So I'm sure you've got some secrets that I could pry out of you. Looking forward to doing that.
We've got to get Carol on the show. I think she can tell us a lot of great things.
Right.
I know this is, and she's damn good at this. I know that. So
consider that an official invite, Carol. The wages we pay for guests, it'll just make your eyes water, really.
There you are. I mean, I love it. So yeah, Mick. So I'm looking for somewhere between 30 and 40% of, so it's significant. I mean, if you think most dealers or commercial flooring contractors really have somewhere between 10 and 15% is their end user business. And so I feel that there's always room to grow that side if there's obviously the appetite.
What's the most you've seen with a commercial flooring dealer?
Close to 50.
Yeah, I know. We won't mention their name, but hey, the one thing about that kind of business, it's steady. You don't have any losses. Every month is a positive month, right? Even in tough times.
It really is, and there's, so I mean, and we'll talk about this later, because there's a bit of a, we'll create a bit of suspense. I mean, not that we're very good at that, but we'll try and create a bit of suspense for people to think about really a very different model when it comes to end user business. But that's just to keep their attention, right?
All right. Well, we're going to really test their attention now, because I'm going to bring up your slide. Look, this is the Flooring by the Numbers show, so we have to have some numbers. So here's a set of real numbers. We've anonymized some of them, so you can't discern who it is. And tell us a little bit about this slide, Andre.
All right. So, I mean, first of all, you've got to admit it's damn pretty slide,
It has, I think, 8 out of 10 for artistic license.
I mean, you got to be somebody to create something like this. I mean, not anybody can do this. I can tell you that right now. Now, Mick, of course, on the left-hand side, what we've grayed out are the end users. So that's the individual end users that belong to just a portfolio. And really, I mean, when we said we're going to try and show a portfolio of end users, I mean, this was your idea, and I had to just go, I had to just flow with it. You know what I mean? So, but really,
you're trying to imply my idea wasn't very good.
No. I'm just saying the execution wasn't very good. Your idea was beautiful, fantastic idea. What all I did was here is, I went, and it's a bit random, but I went to a group of end users and just said, hey, let me plot in a portfolio. So in other words, these were end users all acquired in the 2016 year. So that was the first thing. So in other words, the first dollar was 2016, right? And then I said, okay, now that I know where the first dollar is, how much have they purchased year in, year out from 16, 17, 18, 19, and obviously in 20? And I know some people are going to say, well, geez, look at 20. I mean, that was supposed to be the death of end users. And yet in this portfolio, which was, I mean, it is a little bit unique in many areas, but this portfolio, I mean, do you see the incredible value of this portfolio, that every year, the one thing that was pertinent is pretty close, the same dollar of revenue was reinvented in this portfolio year. Now, of course, not every customer bought the same every year. So we're talking about the portfolio as such, and how a portfolio performs. And, from this, we've done a little more research, Mick, that we've looked at this and said, okay, for $1 million portfolio, so, so the $1 million of end user business that is greater than 20 customers. So you've got to have some spread, all right? So, $1 million greater than 20 customers will give you $1 million every year for 5 years. I mean, that's what, so it could be longer, of course, but that was our stretch of research, right? So, $1 million, and we looked at different $1 million, and it was fairly consistent that once you sort of got to that $1 million, that $1 million will give you, or that portfolio, as long as it's more than 20 clients, because obviously if it's much smaller than that, you can have one person that just skews the whole thing. But that $1 million delivers $1 million every year for 5 years, at least, and longer. So, I mean, that's significant. And the average margins on these things are north of 30%. And if they're not, then there's something wrong with you, right? So, I mean, because that's very standard.
All right. So we've painted this wonderful picture of an end user portfolio, the value to the business. Why don't people? What are the barriers to enhancing, expanding, building, an end user portfolio? And we have a slide on it. I can go to the slide, or we can just chat.
Go to the slide. I mean,
go to the slide. Okay.
Look, mate, if we're gonna kill them with slides, let's just do it properly. You know what I mean? And everybody's saying, yeah, well, there's a bloody live slide.
I know you. You're so creative. I don't like to limit your flow and and ingenuity. But here are some of the common things that we see, right? And you already talked about the top one, Andre, which is
what's impressive about this, right? Is that damn diagram that you put in there. I mean, man, I tell you what, it barriers. So what you did is you went in search of the bloody barrier.
Well, you did
anybody that sees this will say, whoa, the thought that went into that picture must have been absolutely breathtaking.
That's the yin and yang. You did the content, I did the image. It's a good partnership.
Oh, mate. Anyway, so but here's the thing. Either we are on the wrong path here, or there's something missing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I tell you why, Mick, if end user business is as good as what we say it is, right? If it's as good as why aren't people focused on it? Why is that the average size of an end user business is about 15% of their total revenue? So you're not getting. I mean, you're not getting iron here.
Right.
So there's got to be something that's missing. I mean, it's either, how we see the world, which is very probable, or that there is a degree of resistance to truly building this business. And look, I mean, these are just some things that you and I discussed, but there is a barrier. There is a constraint. There's something that and I don't. Here's the thing. I don't believe the barrier is whatever you want to call it. I don't believe the barrier is how can I say, is driven by the owner. I believe the barrier is driven by the way that salespeople see the end user world, right?
Okay.
And because we as, let's call it, we as owners and managers, we have the same process for end users, right? We have the same process for end users as we have for everything else. So it's all the same thing. So the compensation's the same. For example, I mean, that's a big one, right? And when so when I'm going to get paid the same on $20,000 versus $200,000, I don't know. What do I, what's more sexy, the $20,000 or $200,000? You know what I'm trying to say? So I think the barrier is not coming from the owner. The barrier is coming from the behavior, and what motivates salespeople, basically.
Right. And some people think differently. Obviously, Carol, that's a big part of her portfolio. But she's probably got a very good process and way of cultivating that. It's these are the things you talked about. The fact that it's not that sexy. If you're a big deal salesman, as you talked about, getting those big commission checks, is great. And that alignment of how you compensate salespeople when you're paying them on a percentage of gross margin, they're going to try and get those big jobs if they can, because getting those customers is harder. I mean, getting the big jobs, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, the big bid death spiral, right? Just keep on, I'll throw bid after bid after bid. If I'm a salesperson, I have unlimited resources, which they think they have unlimited estimating resources sometimes. You're going to win, a good number of those bids, and they're going to be large. Whereas when I have to go after an end user, there is no bid board. I got to go find these people. I got to go do some research.
Right. There's a lot of work associated with it. And then there's also a belief system. Once I've got the customer, I've got to, I've got to service the damn customer for, the $20,000 or $10,000, sometimes $5,000, sometimes even $1,000 a pop. I've got to go and service a lot of work.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So there is reasons why, but yet here's the thing, Mick. Whenever we speak to owner, all right, or to a senior manager in an organization, every time they will tell us how important end user business is. Until such stage as they've got to do something about it in their own business, then of course it becomes, I don't know, unimportant. So that is, I think, is the main reason why this end user business is I think this industry from an end user viewpoint is so fragmented from, which is primarily driven by schmuck and truck type of, providers as such. Yeah, and of course that creates an incredible amount of difficulty for the property managers and end users, because, the schmuck and truck is maybe cheap but unreliable, right? And with quality good because they happen to be sober the one day, and quality not so good because they weren't that sober the next day. You know what I'm trying to say? So there's no professionalism that's really in this industry.
So our message to you guys and gals is that this is a ripe market. They've got really important needs that you can solve. And you just need to get in front of these people. You got to get some discipline in place, get in front of that, and it's going to be great annuity revenue. And so here are some of the elements of building what we think are the key elements for building an end user portfolio. And you like my artwork here, Andre?
No, at least I mean, I think you made a little effort here.
So here's what's important, and we alluded to this at the very beginning. Actually knowing what segment you want to go. Are you targeting multifamily, or are you targeting hospitals, or are you targeting schoolwork? So this little diagram here with the three circles, the smiley thing is what the customers want. The circle on the right with the check mark in it is what you do really, really well. And the circle at the bottom with a cross in it is what your competitors do really, really well. So you want to be in that little yellow space where the customer really loves that kind of thing, and you do it really well. So you need to decide, are you really, really good at multifamily? Is that where you want to make a name for yourself? Go and target those, multifamily people. So
and Mick, I got to say something right here, and I don't know if I was interrupted. Did I interrupt at all?
This is the yin and the yang. It's just natural. I expect
But
it.
I must say, I mean, you know, and I mean, I can't take. I love to take credit. In this case, I can't. You've developed a beautiful end user course, and am I trying to flog our end user course? Of course, but the thing about our end user course is, especially just this. The few people that we've road tested your course with and so on, and when they start really understanding this and getting their perspective around, just because there's a circle underneath that yellow, isn't there, Mick,
There is.
where we try and do so much effort where the competitor is good as well, you know what I mean, and that's just, and you don't need to compete there.
Right.
And that yellow spot is, and there's so much of that yellow. There is just so much of that. But
and Andre, the hardest thing for salespeople to do is to niche down to a segment, because it's almost counterintuitive, right? The more eggs I have in my basket, right, the better my balance of risk. But when you're going after end user work, you really need to be able to speak to the end user in their language. So you need to learn it. And so actually having a focus empowers you to be more compelling than, if you only did hospital work and you were competing against a general provider who did all kinds of things, the language and the knowledge that you bring into that conversation will set you apart. So deciding where you want to focus is absolutely critical. Not all work is good work.
And Mick, I know this is an area that you spend a lot of time with people and trying to focus them on, and I'm not going to spend it. But here's the thing, that when you talk about doing work for let's call it a hospital, because you mentioned hospitals, we can talk about universities, and there's certain peculiarities that they have. It's not just about putting some doing some repair or putting some floor in. They're concerned about the health, the environmental, air conditions, all of these things that impact the facility. And when you know how to talk that language, then what you're charging is not really that relevant, because remember, the amount of their budget versus what you are delivering inside that budget is so minuscule, it doesn't even reach the bottom end of the paper.
You're talking about the flooring component of a construction budget is quite small, so charging 40%, 50% margin on it as opposed to 25% margin isn't materially significant in terms of overall dollars.
Does nothing. It does nothing. It doesn't even move the dial. I mean, how many times, Mick, do we have customers, and because they're in that yellow space, hey, right? Okay. So explain that again. It's what the customer wants, right?
Right. It's what the customer wants a lot of things, but there are a very few things that are absolutely critical that the customer's prepared to pay more for. That's what that circle is. And then the circle with the check mark in is what you do really, really well and better than anybody else. And you do it in a way that allows you to do it consistently. You've got installers who know how to do it. You know how to take the risk out of it. You know how to do it at good margin. So that overlap between the two is really, really where you want to be. In the towards the bottom there, where your competitor does it either better than you or equally as well as you're going to get into a competitive battle. But you also alluded there, Andre, in talking, once you know that customer, you start to understand their pains. Like when you talked about the hospital, I'm concerned about dust. I'm concerned about logistics. I'm concerned about, if I don't have my operating done in time, it's $1 million of revenue lost per day. Those problems and challenges that the customer has is very unique to the segment. And when you understand that, you can start talking about their pain points. And when they know that you understand their pains and their problems, they go, I trust you a little bit more. I want to work with you. So very powerful. And once we know where we want to target, and we understand what our customer needs are in terms of their pains and challenges, then we can start creating messaging. It's not, hey, we're a really good flooring company. We've been around for 42 years. We're third generation. We're really good. We're local. Can we bid on your work and see how good we are? And then the messaging is, we really understand your environment. Here's how we've done it before. These are some of the things that you should be thinking about. It just pulls them in. It pulls them in.
Look, I mean,
I stunned you there, Andre, didn't I? Stunned you.
No, I must say, I was not asleep. I promise you, I was listening intently. But Mick, no, I love messing with you. But this is so effective. I mean, Mick, because I've seen you deploy this. I mean, so it's not just a matter of, these are all just good little theory type points. This has been deployed, and I've seen. I've physically seen, the students of this come out the other side with, a significant end user portfolio that even to this day, they're still grateful that they even went down this road.
Right.
And
let's just finish the 3 boxes, and then we can kind of talk generally. So once you understand all of that, then you become the expert in that area. So if somebody goes, I've got a challenge, I've got to talk to Andre. He really knows this. He knows how to deal with the problems. He always gets the job done. You're seen as an expert. And then, look, people aren't buying a floor every day, right? They're in the market. At any one time, maybe 3% of your market is thinking about buying. So the rest of the time, they're not. And so you need to be in front of them even when they're not ready to buy. And that's called campaign management. In other words, you're sending them information about what to think about if they should want to, resurface, part of their building. And so that's all about how we campaign, how we keep ourselves in front of people. How do we deliver value, magnetic messaging, even when they're not buying? So when they're ready, they're going to call you. First of all. And then the last thing, we do need to know how to handle these opportunities. How do we, move them through the pipeline? And, you don't need to be a 20-year sales veteran to win end user work. We've taken newbies through this. And so being able to put together a disciplined process and then get some, warm leads that really understand that you can help them. There are some closing techniques that people need, engagement techniques. And so those are the foundations. You have those elements in place. You've got a very robust end user portfolio, process.
No doubt, Nick. And Mick, those sound, and I know you I'm just sort of re-emphasizing, but if as a manager of a flooring company, it is so it's so helpful to have something that gives my people, a not only a weapon, but the bullets for the weapon. You know what I mean? So that they can have the skills to target a specific market. Because there's very little of that out there today. I must say, I've not seen a lot. When it comes to specifically, commercial flooring and how do you sell to an end user. And that's why I love your course. Yeah, I mean, I really do.
You just don't wake up and think, end users, I'm going to make a couple of phone calls, right? You've got to have a disciplined, process, methodology, and approach. And that's what our course does. And I'll give you a little link to the course later on. But we always like to have a little bit of edginess to the call. And Andre, has been thinking about end users. My image of end user work. What prompted me to develop the end user course actually was, or a program for a client was, we were facing a very difficult and lean fourth quarter, and we knew that end user work would be more rapid, and we drove a program to deliver amazing results in the fourth quarter. So I always thought, okay, let's let's use it as a filler, but it can be a strategic weapon. And Andre came up with this idea, and I tried to draw it. So bear with me if you don't like my diagram too much. But how do you think end user work, or how could it be a strategic part of your portfolio?
Right. So lastly, Mick, it's just what the favorite saying is, Mick. If you change what?
Your favorite saying: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
I've got to give you a
yes.
Beautiful. Now, so here's what, and here's the thing: the way, exactly the same way that you discussed. I think the majority of our constituent managers look at end user as a gap filler. Exactly what you said. They know the attributes, they know all the good things, but it's something that hopefully we can plug a couple of holes with this end user business while we're doing the main gig, which is our GC work. All right. Now, if we change the way we look at things, if your end user portfolio is of substance that really just gives you, if you build it to the point where it is actually just a little bit north of your break even. So one of the goals that you can look at is, does my end user portfolio give me at least the revenue that allows me to break even? Right. And because one thing I can tell you, that if that's the case, you will never lose money. So when you make all that money during the summer period and some of it gets lost in the early winter and late winter, all of that sort of stuff, none of that happens. And then you use your GC work to make the additional amount of money, which is dependent on you. So, and really there's one line that's maybe missing, and it's a thing called capacity. Right. So, when we look at this in relation to the capacity, you start using your GC work as the way to, where can I drive capacity and at what stage am I, I'm over capacity or under capacity. But the nice part about that is when your end user portfolio allows you to go to bed at night and say, I'm not going to lose money in my business. And the nice part about that, Mick, you think about this, because I know everybody's looking at me and they say he's crazy, which there's a lot of truth to that. But here's the thing, Mick. I can tell you right now that if you do have that, you will never have a cash flow problem. Never. Because, trust me, your end user business is a 30-day cycle at worst. And so you've got two great things happening in your business. You've got the security of making money, and you've got the security of, good, steady cash flow. Then you can develop whatever you want to do on top of that. So that's the...
Yeah, so I think your point there is you don't have to go super low to win a particular GC bid. You can be a bit more selective on the ones that you want, because it's all gravy from that point, right?
Right, and make beautiful. The thing about that is it then gives you the ability to say no.
Yeah.
And I think for you look at our clients and our industry, that's the hardest thing for everybody to do, is to say no. And how many jobs have we seen owners and managers say to us, man, I really wish I didn't take that one, boy.
Right.
That hurt my left eye and my right eye, and they bruised, boy. So anyway. But that, to me, if you just had to boil this all down to just that major benefit, is substantial.
All right. Well, look, as Andre mentioned, we've developed a course, the End User Rapid Sales Formula, and there's the link.
Nick, for next show, I want everybody to remember that link. Word for word. If you do come to this show next week and you don't know each one of those letters and the dot, then mate, that is perfect. I
Right.
promise you now. I can imagine
not
how many people.
I'm not expecting people to remember it, so you can do a little screenshot. This program doesn't allow me to embed live links, but let me put that on the bottom. That's where you would go, and it will be included in the replay below the replay. If you go to the YouTube channel, I'll put the link in there.
Mick, for the next link, I want to make it longer.
Look, mate, just what I have to deal with, right, every day.
That's perfect.
But anyway, check out the course. It puts
guys, seriously,
structured. It's an it's an 8-week program. It drips over 8 weeks. Each week, I'll take you through those elements that we talked about earlier in the show. Help you target your market. Help you build your messaging. Become compelling to your customer. How to build a campaign, and how to drive your sales process. And once you've got these end users in your portfolio, it's going to be annuity revenue. So whether you use the course or not, guys, what we're trying to say to you is that end user work is very, very strategic. It should be a key element of your portfolio, and you should try and expand it.
Definitely. And Mick, the nice part about this course is, guys, it's you buy it once for your whole organization. Isn't that right, Mick? And it doesn't matter how many people.
I was going to charge everybody individually. Now you're saying one price for an organization. Just kidding.
It's a good thing we prepared for that. Okay, so I'm good.
Anyway. It's an organizational price. If you got 20 salespeople, man, you don't get any better training than that for that value. So anyway, check it out.
Oh man, guys, this you got to do. Okay, this is me telling you, right? Okay, love it. Cheers.
Well, once again, our time has elapsed. We've enjoyed ourselves. I hope that you have, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.